Well, hello and welcome to our review for Sam Mendes's War Epic 1917. We, of course, do weekly reviews now every Friday. We did Jojo Rabbit last week and we felt compelled to discuss this quite spectacular war movie, Stephen. We'll do what we've been doing previously with Rise of Skywalker and Jojo Rabbit. There is a brief outline here, and I will intend to go through all of these with you and get your thoughts on it. I will perhaps share my thoughts as well, if I'm not, too discombobulated and whatnot. But look, Stephen, everything has a start. The introduction to this movie, I've said, Calm Before the Storm. Shot of Blake and Schofield, kind of a snoozing. Blake gets a call to arms. He has to go and select one man and go and meet Colin Firth's character, whose name immediately eludes me. I think it's General Erenmore.
Yeah.
And incidentally, I have it written in front of me. It's a calm before the storm. They're having a little sleep. We have no idea. They have no idea what is about to unfold in this movie. What did you make of that intro? A beautiful shot. It really does set the tone in terms of cinematography for this movie. Wonderful shot of the fields, them lying against a tree. And then, what was your thoughts when we immediately get thrust into this movie? Because it really doesn't slow down thereafter. Just the general way this movie works. It's all continuous one shot, all taking place over the course of one day. There's no real time to slow down and think. There is some slower moments, but in the main it's frenetic. What was your thoughts on that?
I think the first 10 minutes, John, you've got the dialogue, which was very interesting. It kind of gave you the dynamics of the characters right away. The relationship as well, just going right into it.
Yeah.
Also the way it was shot, the camera's going back the way through the trench. And it's so fascinating, and it's such a hectic and busy and bustly area that the two of them are discussing the plan. I thought it was an excellent way to open the film. You're right in there. There's no sort of slow build up, I don't think, anyway. I know there's a calm before the storm because we know, obviously, once you've seen the film in hindsight, it's a more calmer moment, but it's very bustly, very noisy. You're getting these two characters, Blake and Schofield, I think the other one's called.
Yes.
Just discussing how they're going to do this. One of them's more patient, the other one understandably isn't, because it's his brother. He wants to get to him as soon as possible. So you can understand the situation right away. In fact, it wasn't until maybe after that scene, John, I realised it was Colin Firth. Very brief role for him, but we find out later on in the film there's a few cameos anyway. But the opening scene, or the opening shots, I should say, that sequence, it was just shot brilliantly. Yeah,
Stephen, look, and there's also a sense of naivety from these two guys as well. They think in their minds it's coming up to Christmas, I do believe. They make reference to coming close to Christmas, I think, and they think the war will be over in a couple of weeks. This is set in 1917, of course. The war didn't end until a year or so later, so there was a lot of conflict still to take place, and you just get that sense of naivety from these guys as well. But then we move on, Stephen, as you did say. They get briefed. He has to go off, Blake, and take one man. Of course, it's Schofield, his partner-in-chief in this movie. They have to go off and save, I can't recall what the battalion is called, over, I think it may be 2nd Battalion or something like that, over in another part just across from another French town, I believe. They have to go and try and save 1,600 men, including Blake's brother, played by Richard Madden, incidentally, and he has a nice little cameo. He's one of the cameos you mentioned that pop up later on in this movie. They then just get thrust right into the action. They go across no man's land. That's the next little point I've said, is that journey across no man's land. But prior to that, then the interaction with Andrew Scott's character as well, that introduces some comedy in there, because he thinks they're absolutely crazy, and I think he says to Schofield or Blake at one point, I do hate losing these to the Hun. I think it's a flare gun.
Yeah.
So if they start shooting at you, would you be so kind as to throw it back to me? And I think he says cheerio, and he gives a little mystified look. That was a lovely little cameo.
He kind of blesses him with his liquor as well, the way a priest would, But it was a nice little cameo, John, and it was one of those ones where, it's one of I didn't miss that one, But yeah, you're right. It's when these guys are going through this journey, everyone they meet thinks, you're off your head, but we'll discuss obviously later on, that there is a line in the film in regards to everybody's different journeys. We talked about it before we came on air, so I don't really want to talk about that too much, but there is a sense of that in this sequence as well, which I felt was sort of, planting the seeds to sort of condition yourself for that realisation later on in the film.
Yeah, and look, Stephen, I really enjoyed that No Man's Land sequence. Incidentally, that was a lovely little, again, introduction into this war setting, which has been so faithfully recreated by Sam Mendes, Roger Deakins, and just the production crew as a whole. I actually seen Dean Charles Chapman speak about it in an interview afterwards, and he says you get a real sense for how treacherous the conditions were. This mud was very, very slippery, and although they had been practising for 6 months prior to it, painfully choreographing each sequence, mapping out the exact length for shots and whatnot, because of this one-shot continuous technique that they were using, nothing really prepared them for the slipperiness of that, obviously, mud. And just the tension that gets built up, that's something that really recurs throughout this movie again and again. It's really well crafted, the tension and the stakes and what you can sense. It's a big conflict.
Well, John, you certainly can sense it in that early part of the film, especially, you know, in No Man's Land. You're thinking the worst. Yeah. You really are. You're thinking, this is going to be an ambush or something like that. But
and again, Steve, sorry for interrupting, you do get that little clash of intel, if you like. You have Colin Firth's General Edinburgh telling them, look, the Germans have moved back from the front line, they're miles behind now, they're setting up a trap. Then you have Andrew Scott's character saying, no, we fought them just a couple of days ago. We had to drag one of our troopers or soldiers off of the No Man's Land. They're still there, you're absolutely mad. So that really, you don't know who's telling the truth.
Exactly.
And you can sense that uncertainty in the characters.
That adds to the tension because there is that uncertainty, John, and I certainly sensed that as well. You know, I feared for them right away. I knew that obviously one of them was going to go the whole journey, but you know, at this stage you just didn't know what was going to happen, you know. And I mean, it was one of those I think we'll get right into the collapsing trench scene then, John, because I think that was one of the sort of pivotal moments as well, where
again, tension. You speak about tension, Jesus Christ, I mean, the rat.
It's so claustrophobic as well, that scene, but it's just the way it's shot again, you know. It's very reminiscent of The Great Escape and those tunnel scenes, you know, with Charles Bronson. But it was you know, it was the incident itself kind of cemented to me, you know, what these guys would do for each other, you know, in these sort of circumstances, you know, and you see it. I think it's Schofield that pulls Blake out, isn't it?
No, Blake pulls Schofield. I think he's partially blinded at one point because
you can understand the dust and all the rocks. It was also that moment as well when he's pulling all those rocks away. It could have been on top of him for all you know. You know, you just didn't know where he was. He was listening for his breathing or something like that, or anything kind of reaction he could have got from him. But it was just, I believe the scene was set up obviously for, you know, dramatic effect, obviously, but I think as well on a relationship point of view as well, it showed you these two guys would do anything for each other. Absolutely,
Stephen. And you also get bickering and kind of. It shows you perhaps the situation, just the hopelessness of it, where they're actually, I think it's Blake's comparing the size of the German rats to the size of the Allied troops' rats in the trenches. Even their rats are bigger, I think he says at one point. So there's little quips in there from Blake throughout, and you get a sense of, I don't know, cheekiness from him. Even in the bleakest situation, he's going off to try and save his brother and whatnot. He still has time to quip in with little jokes and whatnot. But I think it just, as I did say, it beautifully sets up the tone of the movie. The characters, you're right, you get that sense of closeness between the two of them early on. They would do anything for each other, even though I think Schofield's a little pissed off afterwards and he's not at all happy with being thrust and chosen to go on this journey with Blake. But yeah, look, I really enjoyed the beginning of this movie. I felt like this movie had to be set up really intelligently. You had to really bond to these guys initially, or the journey and the actual story wouldn't have worked, because we will get into it later on about the story, but I think the absolute key in this movie is that connection between the audience and Blake and Schofield, getting to know these guys, and he does a great job of slowly drip feeding out their personality and what journey they've been on throughout, obviously, the war itself prior to the events of this movie, throughout the middle and early stages of this film. That gets me into the next point, incidentally, if I stop gibbering away nonsensically. I says the intelligent early development of Blake and Schofield's relationship with characters. How important, Stephen, do you feel? Would you agree with me that was key moving forward in this movie for setting up a situation where we feel a connection to these guys and you actually get on the journey and you're flinching when they're in trouble, you're actually feeling for them? I felt that was absolutely key from Sam Mendes and the other writer whose name eludes me at the moment. She's Scottish. I thought they'd done a great job.
I think, John, we're going back to the beginning again, just with your question, because I think that's the reason, you know, we got that sort of long sort of scene with the two of them, just talking to each other and trying to understand each other, and building up that relationship. They're also building a relationship up with us as well. We're getting to know the ins and outs of these characters, what makes them tick, what annoys them, what makes them angry, what makes them, okay, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's what you do, and I think this type of film, you need to do that. We talked about this before we came on air, John. The actual storyline to this, film, this great film, is a very simple storyline.
Yes.
You're getting from one point to another. It's everything in between that matters, and they absolutely nailed this from the get-go. And you're right, I think you have to care for these characters as well, because they're taking you on this journey as well. That's one of the things I love about this film, the way it was shot, in basically real time. Because you feel like you're there with them, you feel like you're going on this journey, you feel like you're threatened as well. So it's just the magic of film, and this certainly does it. It does the trick, it really does pull you in and care for these characters. You
really do, Stephen, and look, that's why I was so surprised moving on from that, when we actually see Blake meeting his end, probably about 35 to 40 minutes into this movie. I thought he would last quite a bit longer, but as you did say earlier on, one was going to make it through. Very rarely have a situation where the two main protagonists make it all the way through. There has to be some emotional stakes that push one of the guys on to get the job done. Exactly. I mean, it's a mission in the face of just insurmountable odds, really. These two guys going behind enemy lines in the middle of World War One. It's impossible. It should be a death mission. And also one of them does die, and it's Blake. And
just prior to that, John, you get that dogfight as well in the sky, which I thought was shot amazingly. And I was so fascinated by it. Again, you're pulled in, you feel like you're on that field watching these planes in the air fight, and then that's that shot we saw in the trailer, where we think the plane's, it went down, but it's actually went down below a hill, and then it comes up again, and obviously it nearly, crashes right into the two chaps, but
harrowing, but amazing.
I mean, and it shows you how honourable they are as well. They pull this poor soldier at this point.
A little bitch.
He certainly was. And they pull him out. I think he's in flames, isn't he?
Yeah.
Pat him out. That's right. And that's obviously when we get that scene where I think he stabs him, doesn't he?
Stabs him in the gut, and then also we have that. Again, highlighting the connection between these two guys, how close they are. He doesn't want to leave him. He's trying to pick him up and get him back to aid. And the one thing, Stephen, that annoyed me about this movie, just getting after that point, was Mark Strong's battalion. And
they all just came from nowhere.
Yeah, they come from nowhere and just turned up. Just after Blake dies and bleeds out in the field. Where the hell were you, bitches? Not that it would have made any difference, because he was stabbed to the abdomen. There's no chance after that.
I think the actual crash, sent him in that direction. So you could excuse them for it, but that was my initial thought as well. Where were these 2 minutes ago? It just came out of nowhere.
But Stephen, you're absolutely right about that sequence as well. Just the exhilaration of that plane. I just thought that again. Roger Deakins wonderfully shot. Obviously, how much of that was real? I surmise that was probably CGI. The plane coming down. I don't think they had a real plane crashing, but it's blended so well. The practical and the CGI effects in this movie are blended just almost. You can't really notice it.
No.
It's fantastic the way they handled that, and I just loved that whole relationship, the build up to it. Just going back briefly to what we were speaking about, you do have little snippets of information. You find out that Blake Schofield I should say, has fought in the Battle of the Somme. He's been back home. He doesn't like going home because he doesn't want to come back to the war, and he feels like he just wants to come here and get the job done, and then he can go back and live his life that he had before. And then that just connects the characters with the audience. And then when he does die, it's tragic. I felt for Blake, I felt for obviously Richard Madden later on, who's going to get this awful news. And it just harkens back, Stephen, as you were speaking about the story, to what we've seen in the likes of Saving Private Ryan. Some would say simplistic story, but it's full of emotive and a human core, if you'd like. These guys are going off on a noble mission to try and...
Well, that was one of the things,
film, John, it was save the final Ryan, but in this it's to... save a whole battalion.
In comparison to two films, John, certainly in this one, I felt the dialogue was important. It wasn't all that "Tally ho, over the top, gentlemen," all that kind of stuff. It was real discussions. There was no dramatic effect to what they were saying. There was no sort of a long pause before they revealed something or anything like that. It was just conversations, you know, and that's what I liked about this, because it really did pull me in, because it did feel real. You know, it wasn't like the old war films, you know, where they were all so proper and, you know, everyone was, you know, a bloody good chap and all that, you know.
I think they probably would have spoke like that
they
back then.
Probably
Certain
did, John, but I think, you know, just there was no dramatic effect to the dialogue, you know, it was just, you know, matter of fact sort of conversations.
Stephen, I've seen the likes of Dean Charles Chapman and Gary Mackay speaking about it. They were so immersed in the character in scenes. These scenes were shot in 8 and 9 minute long sequences, so they actually get right into the character. They lived this story in this movie for so long in terms of pre-production, mapping out the sequences and doing choreographed stuff for 6 months prior to the actual production, that they actually felt like they were the characters when they were getting right in. They didn't feel like they were part of a movie. They felt like they were there. So I think that just is a natural knock on. Then when you see the dialogue, they probably just became completely immersed in the skin of these guys, and feel like they do know each other, that they have known each other, they have been a part of this war, and it all felt very natural. The way that they handled it, I agree. I thought the dialogue was superb in this movie. I've seen some people say that it was probably the weakest part of the movie. I don't know what crack they're on. I thought it really popped well, and as I did say, without repeating myself 20 million times, it got really into the skin and allowed you to connect with these guys, because you understood what made them tick and what didn't. And then, speaking about dialogues and accents, Stephen, the next sequence after that, after the death of Blake, he meets Mark Strong. Again, another wonderful cameo. There's so many in this movie. I did see, I think it was Micaiah as well in an interview, saying he would have loved to have seen Sam Mendes either do individual stories, much like they did on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where you have 4 or 5 different movies shot from different perspectives, or go off and create mini-series with the series of cameos we see in this movie, the likes of Benedict Cumberbatch, Colin Firth, Mark Strong, Andrew Scott. He'd have loved to have seen these guys getting their own story, and it all kind of a diversion on the actual main plot we see in 1917. And I agree, there's so many interesting guys popping in and out of this movie, side players. But I digress. Mark Strong pops up, takes him away, says, I'll help you get to obviously where you're going, this town, I can't remember the name. And then we get that sequence on the truck with obviously Schofield and all of these different regional accents. And you speak about dialogue, we see little quips. We've got a Cockney guy there, we have a Geordie, we have a Scot, I think there's an Indian guy as well. And then we've got George Mackay's character still grieving for his friend Blake, really determined and renewed and try to get to this battalion and save him. What was your thought on that sequence? Did you think it was a little on the nose, just this introduction? Was it diversity for diversity's sake?
No.
Or do you feel like this was, as I do, a perfect representation of how barriers come down? There's no such thing as nationalities and regional dialects and all this slagging.
There's a reason it's called World War I.
Everyone comes together, they band together in their respective side, and they go and try and
in these instances, John, that you can be excused for thinking that, you know, because I think these are extreme circumstances where, you know, as you said, people have got to pull together against the enemy. So it's all walks of life, you know, and you get that in Britain. You know, all walks of life, thankfully.
Absolutely.
You know, and it didn't really pull me away. Just come back to the interesting sort of concept that you were talking about, though, John. I'm kind of sidestepping the question.
No,
here, but,
no, not at all.
That would have been very interesting, you know, to see these other characters, because they're big actors that were playing these characters as well, so they could carry certain, you know, films, or these characters into their own films, I should say.
Yeah.
And that would have been very interesting, but I think that's what makes this film more interesting, is because we don't know you know, what they were doing before that and what they were doing after it. You know, I think that's what keeps this story fresh, you know, and this is going to be how this film will be seen, you know, down the line, you know, for its rewatchability,
as well.
You know.
I think it's key getting into the end as well, and you actually see the cold way in which people greet Schofield after everything he's done, which we'll get into later on. That these guys are all doing their own life and death missions. They've got their own things happening.
You could make a film about every soldier in the war, John, then, you know. So I like the way they did it.
Stephen, I cut you off there though. What was your thoughts? I don't think you did get into it on that. I mean, it's not an amazing sequence.
I felt Schofield was shell-shocked still, you know, and I think he was just, you know, focused on what he had to do. I think they got stuck in the mud at that point as well, didn't they? And he, you know, he really took charge as well. You know, he showed great authority to get all those guys out and try and get them out of this sticky situation. Pardon the pun. But I mean, it was a good scene, John. But I didn't feel like it was forced or anything like that. You know, Dad's Army. It had all walks of life in it, you know, and that was a comedy, you know, from the 1970s. So, no, I didn't feel it was forced.
No, Steve, like you said, it's just a representation of society at that time. They all banded together.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about Schofield as well, taking the lead and trying to push it out. That's a sign of what the guy is capable of. He had fought in the Battle of the Somme. He'd won a medal for valour or honour, I would have thought. He handed it away. I think he swapped it with a Frenchman for something. I think it was biscuits or something. He says that in a little sequence with Blake prior to it. So this is a guy that's not really about personal gain and honour.
No.
It's just about collective, trying to get the job done. And you see that he takes over and he really tries to help him out of a sticky situation, as you did say. But Stephen, they move on swiftly after that. This is a really cool sequence that takes place right after it. They just seem to happen upon, Schofield happens upon a down bridge. And they then go into this canal sequence, or river sequence, and that takes us onto the harrowing sniper fire. And it's extra importance for us because of where it was shot. We've finally discovered where the sequence in Glasgow was shot, and it was in this scene in the Govan shipyards.
Yeah, down at Clyde, John.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of sensed that. I didn't say anything at the time because I wanted to make sure, but I kind of sensed that was where it was filmed. I love this scene. I think it kind of upped the ante.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just a Scottish saying or not, but
I don't think so.
Those shots coming from the sniper, I could not sense in what direction that was coming from. I've got to be honest with you. I felt the way it was shot, it was deliberate. It also gave you that sort of feeling, if you ever play those video games like the Call of Duties, etc., it gave me that feel to it, where you're living in this moment with obviously Schofield, and I don't think the character knew where to move at the beginning when he was crossing that bridge. I don't think he knew.
Very
where the shots
precarious
were
as
coming
well,
from.
the way he was balancing. So
Yeah.
all the more remarkable.
So it was great. I just loved the way it was shot. It was very eerie, and it kind of. I'm not saying it made it more interesting, having these action scenes, but it certainly just the tone changed. It became more frantic at that point because obviously his life is in danger now. We're getting a little bit of action. We're getting a little bit of response now from the enemy. It's not.
It's the first time you really meet German soldiers
exactly,
in this movie.
And I think apart from obviously the sword with the knife on the plane, which was more sneaky, it was
a rat.
This was more in your face, and I liked it.
Yeah, Stephen, you're absolutely right. If you think back to the first 35-40 minutes of this movie, really, it's really just things going on in their head, psychological. Are they there? Are they not there? Then they do meet the pilot, but he's a little bitch, and he's handled with ease. Obviously, he kills Blake, which is unfortunate for Blake. But this is the first time he really meets proper resistance, and you're right, the way it was shot, the score, just the precarious nature of the way he's balancing along this little bridge, then the way he dives, and just the accuracy of the sniper as well. He's fighting, or they're firing, getting shots off, and it's missing by millimetres. And then it really takes a turn for the worse after that. He gets into the house and he has a little encounter with this guy. He manages to kill him, but he gets shot himself, and then he's thrust back onto the stairs and blacks out. And just prior to that, he was trying to get, obviously, portray it to these guys on the truck that he's times of urgency, he has to get out there and get to this town and save this battalion. So he seems to lose at least, 3, 4, 5 hours unconscious, and then he wakes up, and that takes us on to that next incredible sequence. For me, one of the standout moments in the movie, this sort of ruined town, this city, I think it begins with Wales. I can't recall. I didn't even write it down. It's a French town anyway, and it's ruined and it's dark and there's lights going off, and it's just stunning the way it's shot, the way it captures the eeriness of this location, and then just Thomas Newman's score and this, it just builds to a crescendo. Absolutely remarkable sequence for me, and then it goes into an incredible quiet moment as well. But what did you make of that actual moment? He wakes up, he realises he's lost time, he's a little disorientated, and he rushes out, and then he's getting fired at by German soldiers.
I think this is the moment where he puts the hand over the mouth of the German and tells him to be quiet, and he agrees, and then takes his hand off and he shouts. Yeah, they really don't paint Germans in a good light in this movie, do they? Sneaky characters, John. I think he was drunk, to be fair. I liked the setting. I thought this was one of the sort of highlights of the film as well, was this sort of war-torn town. Just the way it was shot as well. There was sort of flickers of light in there, and that moment he's getting chased as well. I think you're right. No, there was like a stormtrooper out of Star Wars. He kept missing him. Thankfully he did. There wouldn't have been a film. Bring the gun to your sights. Exactly. Fire from it. But it was just the sheer panic on him as well, on his face, trying to get away from this guy. And this is obviously. I think he managed to get his scalpers into a house. He does, with a lady with the child. He just so happens to have a bucket of milk or a tankard of milk, which he
picked
not
up.
out of date or anything like that. No.
But Stephen, again, that gets me into something I want to discuss in general about this movie. If we've got time before we have to try and hide a cut. Just
I'll freeze frame it now,
just
John.
the nuanced way.
Do my police story.
Yes, just the way that he managed to balance the quiet moments with frenetic action sequences in this middle to end part of the movie. You go from the hell of this ruined town, don't know whether it's flares or things getting up the lights, it's like a horror scene that's just destroyed, and him getting fearing for his life, running from fire from a German soldier, and then he goes into a really quiet, chilled moment with also this young baby, and he's thanking her for obviously keeping quiet that he's there, and then he helps the baby out. Again, it just builds this character out even more. He's a really honourable guy. He gives away his milk, tries to give away all the food and whatnot, anything he can do to help this young French woman and a young baby. And again, that just lets us build and connect and bond with this guy. He's a truly good guy that's trying to do the best.
He's honourable,
in this terrible situation. What was your thoughts on the blending? Because there's various moments in this movie where it goes very quiet, and then there's bursts
I think
of
it shows, John,
action.
that war's never convenient. I think the first and foremost, you just don't know when it's going to kick off, and you have to have those moments, to keep it real. I thought it was nice. Again, this is, you're having those scenes for a reason.
He's just choked a guy out prior to it.
Yeah, exactly.
You go to that quietness.
Yeah, and then he's spending some time with a lady and her baby. But yeah, I think it's really just to show the sort of human side of him as well. That he's not just a soldier. So to do what you did.
Shoulder.
Yeah, and
Shoulder.
it's just to show his, that he's got compassion. He's not a robot or anything like that. It's just trained to kill. He is a human being. Obviously later on in the film it's revealed, obviously he's got relations, but it was a nice little touch, John, and I think it was important for the audience to get that scene as well, because it showed very early on obviously his friendship with Blake, and how he was close to him in the very sort of condensed time that they shared. But I thought it was an important scene.
Yes, Stephen, and obviously after that, a quiet moment, and it really slows things down, and I think that's required because the movie was very frenetic, almost unrelenting in its pace, and this moving forward constantly. We've had plane crashes, people dying left, right and centre. We then move on though to that chase sequence, probably the most exhilarating moment in the whole movie, where he is just getting hunted by Germans left, right and centre. She tells him, the young girl, not to go out. It's starting to get day. It's starting to become light. They will see you, and he runs away from several German soldiers. And it's just the pacing of it, the score, the cinematography from Roger Deakins. It's just wonderful the way that it follows him around, and it really immerses you, as it says time and again, really, into this guy's situation, sticky situation. And then obviously he goes into the waterfall and the rapids, and you're just feeling for the guy. What was your thoughts on that sequence, Stephen? Arguably, I mean, the moment prior to it was cool with him obviously choking the guy out and trying to find a spot, but this was probably the most exhilarating moment in the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah,
I mean, you could actually feel for him, John, in this scene, because that water would have been freezing. But there was a cam at the end of that, the water sequence as well, and that's when I think there was those flowers in the water, wasn't there?
Yeah, and dead bodies.
Yeah, that was pretty grim. But
body like camembert.
I thought it was. It was another scene that just flowed well, if you pardon the pun. It's terrible, wasn't it? But just going through those rapids, etc. It was one scenario to the next with him. 1 minute, as you said, we just
actually says that.
It's just frantic one moment, and then it's the calm before the storm again, then it kicks off again, and it was just one of those sequences that they had to go through. But there was moments, in that sequence, when the water was calm, and I think he was just kind of lying floating, wasn't he?
Yeah, after falling about 40 feet down in the waterfall, and then it turns to absolute horror, of course. But Stephen, I says that in my notes, that guy's been through more in one day than I've been through in 30 years of being alive on this planet. It's just unreal what he's put himself through to try and save other people. It's totally selfless. And then, as I did allude to, I think it's Kirsty, I've got her name here, I need to look at it, Kirsty Wilson Cairns, the co-writer alongside Sam Mendes, described the corpse that he puts his hand on to try and gain traction and get out of the water as having the consistency of camembert. I think it's a French cheese, a soft cheese.
I've never eaten that again, John.
Yeah, his hand goes through it, and he's obviously infected hand as well, so don't know what the ramifications are for that after the movie. Probably not good.
Cheesy
but
hand.
Again, he starts breaking down and crying on the side of the river. You feel like, yes, he's finally got away, he's safe, and then he's thrust into another horrific situation. And I felt for him, because I was nearly broken watching it. And yeah, I mean, again, it just allows us to bond again with the guy. It's a continuing theme here. If you've not bonded with this guy in the course of this movie, then you're an absolute sociopathic psycho. You have no emotion. And again, it just highlights the performance from George Mackay. I speak about him all the time. I've seen him in Marrowbone, seen him in Captain Fantastic. He's just fantastic, if you'd pardon the pun. That's not even a pun. The chance was gone. I should have said he was Captain Fantastic. That would have been a pun. But yeah, I mean, we can go on to performances after this, Stephen, but I mean, what a performance that was in that one sequence alone. Just the emotion was rushing out of him. You could really feel and connect with this guy's plight. And I felt with him, alongside Dean Charles Chapman, were obviously the two primary protagonists, and it seems almost obvious to say they were the standouts, but Mackay was a clear standout performer in this movie.
Because he lasted the movie, John. But yeah, I mean, he was the one that obviously took us on this journey. So there's going to be a build-up of emotion, and then there's going to be that moment of the breakdown as well. This was it. You know, it had to come. He's been through all this crap. You know, obviously seen one of his his comrades, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but dying in front of him, in the most stupid way. Let's be honest,
he told him to kill him.
It was such a silly way to die, but again, it's never convenient to die, but I
think Sean Bean's death by cows in that movie was probably a little bit sillier though.
I think so. They should have got him in this film. But yeah, I think it had to come, John. And again, we're talking about it again. I think we should just cut and paste this bit. We're going from calm to frantic to calm again, and this is one of those moments, But I felt
it's what makes the movie so exhilarating.
It makes what the character Schofield is human at the end of the day, And you're right. It had to come. The performance of George Mackay in this film, prior to this, I know that you'd seen a few of his films in between, obviously Sunshine and Leaf. That was a film I saw him in, and he's such a great actor, and you're right. I think Dean Charles Chapman, for his limited time, did what he had to do. I felt his performance was excellent, and obviously when you get to those final scenes, with his brother, the character, it kind of adds a bit more weight to it as well, because I think you can sense that they were brothers, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they actually look as well.
Yeah,
strangely
physically,
look alike.
but obviously in their sort of mannerisms as well. I kind of picked up on that. Obviously the closing scenes with Lieutenant Blake, but I felt both the actors were fantastic. Obviously we did get the big name cameos in there, that obviously played a part. What you're going to get with the likes of Benedict Cumberbatch, etc. But George Mackay for me was the standout.
Absolutely, Stephen. And look, I jested when I says he was a better actor than Dean Charles Chapman, although he probably is. But I thought Dean Charles Chapman was very, very good as well. Joking aside, both very level-headed guys. They're fresh faces. I think Sam Mendes says he wanted a pair of unknown actors, and I wouldn't probably refer to George Mackay's unknown.
Maybe
anyone that's someone that's
like
watched his performance alongside Viggo Mortensen in Captain Fantastic, he's certainly not an unknown. This guy is just superb, and he really made the movie.
That was water I was pouring there.
Yeah,
I
wasn't camembert cheese like that German soldier's back. But yeah, Stephen. Yeah, he was absolutely sublime in this movie, and it really did. It made the movie for me, because I says to you, the story was simplistic in a way, but just connecting with these characters really rested, as I said previously, on these two guys. I was about to say soldiers. I'm getting discombobulated. Shoulders, John. Shoulders.
Say that word, no problem.
Yes, shoulders. Yeah, and I thought they really carried the movie tremendously, and that's what made me connect with it so much. It's one of the best war movies I've seen in a number of years, if not ever, in terms of World War I. There's not been many. But yeah, Stephen, I think this is probably the time to maybe touch upon Roger Deakins as a whole. Do you think this guy's cinematography is worthy of another Oscar nomination?
Yes.
Yes, can't try. I think he's guaranteed to win for this.
I'll elaborate, John. Yes, because I think you need someone of his calibre to really pull this film together. because, as I said, the plot's not mind blowing. There's not going to be any twists or anything like that. You're not going to have different subplots, etc. It's a very focused film. It's
linear.
These guys have to get from point A to point B, and survive that. Obviously, one does. You have to bring someone like Deakins in to make it interesting, and interesting to watch. Because you're not just listening to the dialogue, which is very important, of course. You're not just looking at the characters, you're looking at everything around you as well. Because the way this film was shot, like I said earlier, it feels like you're there, and for that to feel like you're there, your surroundings have got to be realistic as well. And that's where you get a guy like Roger Deakins to come in, and he'll capture, the peripheral side of things as well when they're shooting films, everything around you. And I was trying to take everything in. The soldiers that were going by them, they were having that discussion at the start of the film, just what were they doing, what were they talking about there, and why are they running that way, what's up. Some of them are looking upset, some of them are looking a bit frantic, some of them are a little bit more calm. I was picking all this up, and that's all because of the way the film was shot.
Stephen, he's got a mastery of a camera few before him. He's just unbelievable. It blows my mind that it took him up until I think last year to get an Oscar for Blade Runner 2049. I think he's guaranteed to get an Oscar for this, 2 in quick succession. And I think the way that's one of the big attractions to this movie. It's the way that Sam Mendes really sold the movie. A one-shot continuous technique, just following these guys. It immerses you, as you did say, on the journey. It's a big part of the movie, and you can't really not speak about it.
No.
And I think they did. There's clear moments where they have tried to hide a cut. The one that I spoke about, when they go over to the German trenches early on in the movie, they go down into the darkness, that's a cut. And then the one where he meets up with Mark Strong and goes through the house, and they follow it from the outside of the house, a cut. There's some little CG moments where it's cut, but I think in the main it's seamless, almost seamless, the way that they have made this look one shot. And the fact that there was so much waiting around for obviously weather to mimic what they had before on the obviously shot prior to that, I think he did a remarkable job of seamlessly blending this cinematography in, and I think the guy deserves another Oscar for it. Whether he does or not, I don't know. It's not my call, it's the Academy, and I think it will, if there's any justice in this world. But look, Stephen, I'll move on swiftly, man.
Yes.
That moment where he finally does get over the river, he meets up with the other fallen soldiers, and there's singing. He finally gets to the trench.
Yeah.
People are just battering him from pillar to post, and then that incredible moment where he goes out and runs on no man's land outside the trench run, I've called it. I think Star Wars A New Hope has a rival now for that trench run terminology. That was magnificent. Again, cinematography, just the determination to keep running into people and getting up and running. Incidentally, that wasn't part of the script. He was to try and avoid people, but he was getting hit by people for real, and just continually getting up and running. I think that made it was almost like this movie and his journey in a microcosm. That sequence, he's getting hit by barriers and obstacles, and he just keeps going on, determined to get there. What was your thoughts on that? And then we'll probably get into the Colonel Mackenzie moment after that.
It was a great sequence, John, which surprisingly was in the trailer. I would have probably kept that back.
What was that about?
For it, but I suppose from a cinema point of view, it's probably the money shot, as they call it. We only got a bit of it in the trailer, to be fair, but that whole sequence, he's tried to find Lieutenant Blake, and he has to get through these number of people. Some of them are paying attention, some of them are ignoring them, some of them are going, what are you doing?
First wave.
So they've got their mind on other things. So this obviously, has to drag Schofield out onto the, as you said, the no man's land area. And you're right, you can see that that's not planned, the way he's clashing into these bodies. I think it's slowed down at some points, isn't it, when he bumps into some of the soldiers and they fall down, and some of them take a lifetime to get back up. Wouldn't be me. I'd be rolling back down into the trench.
I wouldn't have been out in the first place.
But it shows the desperation of the guy. I think at this point as well, he just wants to get to point B. And the risk involved, obviously, and what he's having to do as well. He knows where he has to get to, and it's getting there is the big challenge.
Yeah, and then obviously he meets Colonel Mackenzie, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. She's initially thwarted. They don't want him to go in, because I think it's actually Mark Strong says, keep it quiet or something, keep it to yourself. Some people want to fight. And so obviously he's trying to get in and thwart this second wave of attack going over, needlessly killing people because they're running into a German trap. and people are holding him back. He finally gets in though, he fights his way in, and Benedict Cumberbatch's Mackenzie character, he's not interested, he doesn't really want to hear it, and also it explains why that's the case afterwards. But what was your thoughts on Cumberbatch's cameo in this movie, and can you get on board with his almost annoyance having to call off this attack? Because as we said before, there's so many different side players on their own journey. They've also seen the harrowing nature of the war, and they just want to get out there and get it done. Well, he says to Mackay's character Schofield that 1 week they're telling us to call it off, next week we'll be fighting, this is all going to end in one way, one man standing. So I could understand why he was acting the way he was. Wasn't very
we don't
gracious.
Get to see the mental preparation into what they're about to do, John. That would have took hours, to get them all mentally prepared to do what they had to do. And then this random comes in. He doesn't know. You've got to remember that. Yes. You've got to see it from that point of view. Although we've just spent the last 2 hours with George Mackay's character, this random's coming in. He's got a bit of paper in his hand. He's ranting about stuff that doesn't really make sense. And you can understand his reluctance to listen to him initially. Yeah. But obviously, he convinces him enough to obviously read what he has to, the instructions, and
he just calls it off.
Yeah, he calls it off, but there is a truth to it as well, that it's called off this week, it could be back on the next week, as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, Stephen, look, I'm in another world here, sorry about that. I'm like Schofield lying against a tree there at the start. But yeah, I think that takes us into the next point, probably the penultimate point in this review, where it's just the general lack of gratitude I've said Schofield gets after the mission. I've says here, is this a subtle exploration of the inevitability of the war, people being beaten into submission, hopelessness by the conflict? I think it is, personally. If you got that, incidentally, you deserve a medal of your own. I think they've just been beaten into submission. They just want to get out there and get it over and by with, as I did hint to there. And there's no real gratitude for this guy coming in, apart from that old guy outside the area of Mackenzie's. He says, well done son, you've done well, something like that. And then obviously Lieutenant Blake thanks him as well at the end for fighting so hard to come.
Personal level,
more
John,
on a personal level. But you can understand, as I did say, Stephen, did you agree with the lack of gratitude? Could you, I'm kind of doubling over what we said before, that these guys had seen it all, and look, he's just a nobody. I think you've pretty much covered it.
No, they were just a bunch of ungrateful gits.
Yeah, ungrateful shit.
Know what this guy went through. No, of course, all kidding aside, John, they're all going through war. Yeah. That's the bottom line, I
thought it was beautiful. I thought that that microcosm showed you what this war was all about. These guys were just out there fighting it day in, day out. They were beaten down into submission. It was just a great sort of visual metaphor of what the hell this war was like for these guys. There was no gratitude, there was no thank you very much for putting it off for one day.
It's not like all these soldiers were going to put them up on their shoulders and he's a jolly good fellow and all that. It wasn't going to be anything like that. It's basically, okay, we've did that, right, bye.
Get out there and get fed.
So it wasn't anticlimactic or anything like that. It's just that's the beauty of the way this film's been shot and written. You get it, you understand. All these characters are going through hell, not just the George Mackay character, although that's who we've spent most of the time with. We don't know what these guys have probably went through a lot worse, and some of them probably haven't. We don't know that. We just have to, obviously assume that, and you do assume that, because they've all got their own story to tell. Yeah, Stephen, look, final thing, not be it'll be the final thing. The final thing will be our overall thoughts on this movie, and it's probably Oscar chances as a homogenous whole. But that sequence, you briefly touched upon it, where he meets Lieutenant Blake, obviously completely poignant and tinged with a sense of sadness, tragedy. Obviously he's breaking the news to him that his brother has died, and again it's foreshadowing what we've seen in the likes of Saving Private Ryan. He finally meets Matt Damon's Ryan character. It wasn't the big battle sequence that we get in that movie, but it's almost better in a way, because he does have that quiet moment with him. He shakes hands, he thanks him, and then he goes off and lies against a tree, and it's poetic in a way. It's almost symmetrical. The beginning of the movie starts with him lying against a tree, and it ends with him lying against a tree, and he's reading a note from his family. And again, that harkens back to that conversation about him not really caring about medals and how he doesn't want to think about going home. He reads about home and perhaps a sense of hope. Maybe I'll get to the end of this war after all. But look, some people think he didn't, because the can't bear body
Some people think his wound in his hand was infected and he died not long after
Yeah,
the
it was
movie.
toast, yeah.
Yeah, it was toast. But
Cheese
what did
toast,
you make, Stephen? Did you see the connotations with perhaps a Saving Private Ryan? What did you make about this poignancy in this final scene? Did you like it? Did you like Richard Madden's little cameo? I thought it's just a great actor, isn't he? Really?
And you need great actors to do those little cameos, John, that really, have a sucker punch, because you saw the emotion when the news was brought to him, that his brother had died. But that kind of cements the character of Blake. Who it was obviously in the film enough for us to get to know him enough, I suppose. But I think when we meet his brother later on in the film, it kind of cements the character, kind of gives the character more roundness, if you like, and you can look back and see the tragedy there. That obviously, these guys aren't just soldiers; they're brothers, they're fathers.
There's ramifications.
Sons,
there's ramifications for what happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
You watch it as just as a single act, him being stabbed and dying. If you're a cold-blooded shit, then you won't really care. I did care. But then when you see the reaction to his death of his brother.
Yeah, it was prolonged, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, it ties it up. You're right, Stephen. It's bookended. Lovely. But look, the overall thoughts on this movie, man, I thought it was absolutely incredible. If I had seen it last year, it would have firmly been in my top 5, maybe 3 of the year. I just thought the way that he brought the war into a more introspective
I have one
way.
regret, John.
Yeah, on you go.
I wish I saw this in IMAX.
Yes, I'd love to.
And I might still go and see it in IMAX if it's still available to see in IMAX.
It should be.
Because based on the cinematography.
Yeah,
and I think
movie,
I should really take us into the Academy Awards now, John, and talk what you think how this is going to perform as well.
Well, it's got 10 nominations, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's not a front runner though.
No, it's not.
It some.
No, I saw that comment. Bizarre.
What are you on?
But,
you on,
as far as cinematography goes, John, I think it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
That's I think out of all the categories, possibly the score as well. I think has got a good chance. Thomas Newman,
yes.
Because there was moments in this film. He did Shawshank Redemption as well.
He did Shawshank. He's done so many movies. I think he's done a couple of Bond movies as well.
He's got a signature, theme about him. And certainly, that kind of reminded me some of the. The sounds, the soundscape that was in the Shawshank Redemption.
He's in the vein of a John Williams. You can just tell the man's touch and the sounds he gets out of the orchestra. He's got a distinct sound.
I think if we're talking about the possibilities of winning an Academy Award or 2, I would probably go for score and cinematography.
Stephen, looking through the nominations, I've got them in front of me. I think he has got a chance of Best Director. I don't know if he will get it, but I think he's certainly got a chance, Sam Mendes, because it has real momentum behind it. And just the Academy love war movies, and this is Oscar baited, there's no doubt about it. That he does have a closeness and an emotional connection to this story. It's based on the novels or the memoirs of his late grandfather who fought in World War One. So there's a real personal touch there, and you can see he cares greatly about it. He worked tooth and nail with some great people to put this into being, if you like. Best Picture, I think it's probably joint favourite with Joker at the moment. I don't think The Irishman's going to win now. I think it's a distant third. It's maybe a dark horse, but I think this movie has a real chance.
Do you not think Scorsese has a chance then, John, for Best Director? No,
I think he does have a chance. Come on, it's Martin Scorsese, Jesus Christ, they have to throw him a bone.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I've not even got a favourite, man. I'd love to see any one of them win. Todd Phillips, Sam Mendes. But I think he has
spoils, really, yeah.
Yeah, I think he has got a chance. And you look at sound mixing, it's maybe got a chance. Visual effects, probably not. No, probably not visual effects. But I think cinematography, and I think that's a clear winner here. Cinematography is definitely going to happen. I cannot believe this movie did not get nominated for Best Editing. Jesus Christ, man, that guy had to edit together.
But you spotted
8
the
to 9.
edits,
Yeah, I did spot the edits, yes. But you had to edit together a movie and make it look like one continuous shot, and he managed it. So that guy's not even been nominated. That's an absolute joke. But yeah, Stephen, overall, I just think this is one of the great modern day war movies. It sits there firmly within beside the likes of Saving Private Ryan and whatnot, the likes of A Downfall, and that it's and even the fact that it's a World War One movie. I mean, you don't see many World War One movies. I'm so glad to see this period has had some focus shined upon it, if you like. I was trying to think of the best way to say that there. I think it's up there with the likes of Dunkirk and whatnot, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think
it's important as well, as far as history goes, John. Taika Waititi, I did see the documentary with him and Stephen Merchant talking about Jojo Rabbit, and on a more serious note, he says it's important to remind people just the effects of war. Certainly that was World War II, but the sentiment is there for World War One as well, the Great War, I think it was called. But it's very important to remind people of these stories, certainly the days we're living in just now.
Yes, with the whole won't it happen, World War III with Iran and whatnot. If you don't learn from past mistakes, Steve, and then through a variety of mediums like literature and film, then you're doomed to repeat those mistakes. So I'm glad to see a guy like Sam Mendes coming out and giving us a rare insight into the horrors of these guys. We've seen it with Peter Jackson's, what the hell was that called? That one he mastered all of the old footage and whatnot. They Shall Not Grow Old, yeah.
Shall Not Grow Old,
so we've seen a real focus on that period recently, and I think it's great. Some lesser known stories and whatnot, and
less trench foot in this one though.
Less trench foot, yes.
Thankfully.
Yeah, well, we got the camera bear body. I think that's more than enough. She's got a sick mind, that writer, incidentally. She's done wonderful. Her and Sam Mendes. Overall, those team really enjoyed it. One of my favourite movies I've seen in the last calendar year. We don't rate them, so you're not going to get an A or whatnot. But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Oh,
I don't really have anything else to say.
It was excellent, John. And I will be going to see us again.
I will be
in
going
IMAX.
Absolutely.
To get the full effect.
Yeah, but not in the front row like we went the last time. I still get neck injuries from it. But look, guys, what did you make of 1917? I know we are maybe late to the party. This movie came out later here than it did in the States and everywhere else. Shock horror. We're not even getting Parasite until February 7th, incidentally. The last country in the world. We're just the poor beggar plebingtons over here in the UK.
Parasite, yeah.
But look, if you have anything to say about 1917, share your thoughts on it and whatnot. What have you made of our review? You can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed the content. And if you do, then you'll see our ugly mugs again for shows, and Lord knows we'll be reviewing another movie next Friday. Don't know what it'll be yet, but we'll certainly be back reviewing another movie. See you then.